Good morning, everyone. We are SFE Design, and we have been chosen to complete our capstone in downtown Wakefield, Massachusetts. Before I go into the specifics of the project, I'd like to take a minute to introduce our team. So, SFE is comprised of 6 members, with myself as project manager, Nick as roadway engineer, Tom and Emily as transportation engineers, and Emil and James as traffic engineers. As a team, as Kevin mentioned, we have all been on co-op. So together we have over 9 years of experience working on a variety of transportation engineering projects, whether that be in the planning process, the design process, permitting. Tom, for example, also went to the Netherlands this summer to study their sustainable transportation systems. So we're looking to apply everything that we've learned here at Northeastern and while out on co-op to redesign downtown Wakefield. We really want to ensure that our redesign of Wakefield directly reflects these 3 core values, which are designing a street for everyone, building a community destination, and ensuring safety for all. So that sounds nice, but what does it mean? Designing a street for everyone means that we want our design to safely, efficiently, comfortably accommodate all modes of transportation. So right now, for example, Main Street is the main street in Wakefield, and accommodates vehicles very well, but pedestrians and bicyclists less so. So we really want to ensure that our redesign serves pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users, as well as motorists as well. Building a community destination means that we don't see the streets as mere roadways, but rather as potential community destinations where we can foster a sense of community and economic vitality to draw people to the area. And last, but definitely not least, ensuring safety for all. So making safety a top priority in our design really ensures that users are comfortable on the roadway and that traveling along it is a positive experience as opposed to a negative and stressful one. So we're going to incorporate all 3 of these values to help Wakefield fulfill its full potential and serve all users safely and comfortably. So where is Wakefield? It is located about 10 miles north of Boston. We visited it 3 times so far to familiarize ourselves with the area, collect existing traffic data, and familiarize ourselves with the existing conditions so we can present a good redesign. So zooming into Wakefield, I can show you that our project area consists of Main Street from Water Street to Church Street, and Main Street is really the core downtown of Wakefield. So the bottom half of this street is where you find Wakefield's core downtown. It also consists of Common Street from Yale Avenue to Church Street from North Avenue to Main Street, and Lafayette Street from Church Street to Common Street. And Lafayette is a more local residential road in the area. We're also making sure to pay attention to key intersections in the project area so we can maximize efficiency, reduce delay, and ensure that the network of roadways operates efficiently. So I'm now going to turn it over to Emil so he can talk about what Wakefield looks like today and where we hope to bring it.
Sarah? So, before I talk about downtown Wakefield, I want to talk about downtowns in general. If everybody could for me, just imagine a downtown you've been to that you really enjoyed. Something that was great, something exciting. I know for me personally, there's a lot. I really like some of the squares in Cambridge, a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago, but my favorite downtown has got to be downtown Bad Reichenhall in Germany. So this is the downtown. It's a small town, about 3/4 the size of Wakefield. This is what they call the Fußgängerzone. It's a beautiful language, German. So this is the central district. This is a pedestrian-only area. It's where you find town hall. It's where you find most of the restaurants and shops in Bad Reichenhall. And so what I love about this downtown is the shopping, the activity. There's always people walking around. It's beautiful. It's comfortable just to be in. So who here, when you were picturing your favorite downtown, had Bodrigan Hall? No, but who here had shopping? What about trees or pedestrian access? These are the things that make a downtown great, and this is what we want to bring to Wakefield. So now, let's look at Wakefield. Let's ask ourselves, is Wakefield inviting? And we're going to zoom in on Main Street, which is the real core of downtown. Is this inviting? Well, if you're in your car, sure. You have wide travel lanes, you have plenty of space to park, big intersections. It's very inviting. What if you're just walking around? Well, not bad, you know. You got sidewalks, you got some trees, some shops to go in, window shop a little bit. It's good, but it could be better, right? You could have grass, you could have some places to sit, and some things to kind of separate you from the wide travel lanes and parking. What about if you're on a bike? Where are you supposed to go? There's nowhere for you. If you're on a bike, you're basically forced to either ride here between moving traffic going, I think, about 40 miles an hour, and parked cars who, when they pull in head first, can't see you, or to go on the sidewalk and take space away from pedestrians. You're left with a dangerous option or a bad option, or just not biking at all, which frankly is the option a lot of people end up choosing. So how do we make Wakefield inviting for all users? How do we pull people in from the lake to come downtown and shop? Those are the questions that we wanted to answer with our design, and I'm going to send it over to James, who's going to start telling us how we did it.
Thank you, Emil. So, many of you may be asking yourselves, why Wakefield? Why did they choose this area? You may be thinking, for those of you that know Wakefield, that there's nothing wrong with Main Street. It works just fine. Why bother? We don't need to change anything. It's not worth the cost. And you may be somewhat right. There may not be one standout issue where you look at the area and you say, that definitely needs to be fixed, other than maybe this intersection of Main, Common, and Yale. But that just makes it all the more exciting for us as transportation engineers, because we get to be more creative in our problem solving and our design. So we looked at this area and we asked ourselves the same question: why Wakefield? Like Emil said, it has all the great features of a great downtown. You got your shops and your restaurants like Brothers, which I know we're all grateful for. It's got the park area and a lake to top it all off. Where we see room for improvement is the connections between all these features. It seems that currently the park is disconnected on every side by high-speed traffic on Main Street and Church Street and moderate speed traffic on Common Street. Our goal through our design is to eliminate that disconnect and create a cohesive downtown area, a living, breathing network. And so we started brainstorming, coming up with ideas on how to do so. And we realized through our observations that currently Common Street and Main Street serve similar purposes. So we went through and analyzed traffic count data and determined that Common Street can sufficiently handle Main Street's traffic if we were to close down Main Street. Now, I know road closures, so Professor Firth, please put away your pitchfork for a second and hear me out. I know the idea of a permanent road closure may not sound all appealing, but we are confident that it will be successful in this area. And there have actually been several documented cases throughout the United States where roads have been closed quite successfully. So, for example, one that stood out to me and that I've personally been to is the 16th Avenue Mall in Denver. It used to be through traffic, just for cars. Now it's been shut down, an entire section of the road, just for pedestrians and bicyclists and street art, street activities. There was people playing with big checkers and chess. It's just a beautiful area. Now I know this is a little bit more of an urban feel than we'd like to capture in Wakefield, but you get the idea. It's just the general features. This picture on the right here is more of what we'd like it to look like. It's our imagined image of the new Main Street section. Wide green space, sufficient space for pedestrians and bicyclists, and just a generally aesthetically pleasing area. So after coming up with this alternative of closing down Main Street, we were able to move further into the design process and into roadway design considerations, which is where Emily's going to pick up. Thank you.
Okay, so once we decided what we were going to do with the upper common, then we had to come up with our designs for each street in the project area. And to do that, we took our core values and our project goals and we used them to come up with more specific priorities for vehicles, public transit, pedestrians, and bicycles. So for vehicles, like we said already, downtown Wakefield is fairly vehicle-centric, and there's a picture of Main Street right here. We have really wide lanes and angle parking, and it's really easy for cars to drive, like zip right through. So in order to maintain the high volume of traffic and sort of balance it with the downtown, we needed to come up with a way to make sure that we could keep comfortable and safe the more vulnerable users of the road, such as pedestrians. And to do that, our main priority is going to be to lower the speed throughout the area. So, why do we want to lower the speed? Well, we can look at one statistic, for example, which is that at 30 miles an hour, 50% of collisions with pedestrians were serious or fatal, but when we bring it down to 20 miles per hour, that number drops to 18%. So we really want to make sure that all the pedestrians can be safe on Main Street, and we think that lowering the speed will do that. Ways that we could lower the speed are sort of like what Belgrade was suggesting, which is narrowing our travel lanes. Since they're so wide right now, it's over 20 feet in some areas, if we bring them down, we think that that will encourage cars to drive slower throughout Main Street and everywhere else in the project area. And then another example is implementing something like speed humps. We're thinking maybe on Lafayette Street because it's used as a cut through from Common Street to Church Street, and it's highly residential, so we want to discourage cars from using it as a cut through and driving fast through it. So we think if we put speed humps there, that all the residents there will be much happier and safer. And our other priority for vehicles is then new parking, because we know that that's a main concern for a lot of people in Wakefield, especially the business owners. So we want to make sure that if we're losing parking in some areas, we're making up for it in other areas, and that anybody who's driving to Wakefield and parking there will still be a 5-minute walk from the lake or the common or downtown, wherever they go. And for public transit, we have 2 bus routes that go through Wakefield. We have bus 136, which is shown in blue, and it goes through all of Main Street in our project area and continues, it turns on Salem and continues north. And we have 137, which is shown in red, and it turns onto Richardson and goes by the commuter rail station and then continues to Reading. So both of these bus routes make use of a stop at the lower limit of our project area at Main Street and Water Street, and we want to make sure that we can maintain both of these bus routes efficiently and make sure that people using them are comfortable and safe. And some ways that we can do this are doing things like implementing bus shelters, so people have a place to sit and, be sheltered from the rain or something. Or doing something like a floating bus stop, which I have pictured here, where you have the bike lane going behind the transit so that they don't have to step into the bike path to get on the bus. And finally, transit users will also they'll benefit from enhanced pedestrian facilities that we're proposing, so I'm going to turn it over to Mitch.
So pedestrians are very important when looking into the town of Wakefield. A study was done in 2011 showing that 77% of the residents of Wakefield live within a 20-minute walk from the downtown area. It also showed that 64% of the residents typically drive to the downtown area. Now, if you're walking around the park in the lower common area and around the upper common area, you would have to cross multiple wide roadways to access the downtown area where the shops and stores are. So we want to encourage people to walk to the downtown more often than they do now, and also make it safer and much easier. As you can see on the left over here is an example of a bulb out at an intersection of a busy road such as Main Street. This automatically increases the safety for pedestrians by reducing crosswalk widths on all 4 directions, and also if pedestrians are standing on the corners, they are very visible for the passing cars to see them. Another way of increasing safety on a street such as this would be implementing raised crosswalks on the side streets, preventing vehicles turning too quickly. Another way to increase safety for pedestrians would be here on the right, adding separation between the travel lanes and the pedestrians on the sidewalk by adding aspects such as added pedestrian space, bike lanes, and also grass median. Okay, so why does Wakefield need bike lanes? Well, from our 3 visits to Wakefield in the past 2 months, we noticed people, ride bikes around the town. And with an added bike infrastructure, more people from Wakefield will start to use bikes and be able to access other aspects of the town easily by using bicycles rather than vehicles. As you can see here on the left, Manhattan and New York has started to vastly grow its bike infrastructure over the last decade. And it also encouraged its citizens to start riding bikes, and that's what they started to do. Most people began riding bicycles as their primary form of transportation rather than walking or vehicles. Currently there's no bike facilities in Wakefield, but like Emil touched on before, there's the sidewalk, which we don't really want bikes to conflict with slow walking pedestrians. And also they can use the road, but there's also a conflict with the cars backing out of the parking lanes. Why would Wakefield need separated bike lanes? This adds a separation between the vehicles, the pedestrians, and bicycle users, and will also encourage users to access the downtown, and also provide facilities for them to leave their bikes and walk around and go to the stores and whatnot. So think back to the examples we showed about Germany and Denver. Those were aesthetically appealing places to be, and we want to bring that same aesthetic appeal to the town of Wakefield through our added green space. By adding green space to Main Street especially, we are connecting the residents that live on the east side of the Upper Common to the park area and to the downtown. Also by adding tree belts and other grass buffers around the surrounding roadways, this will also add aesthetic appeal that we want to bring to the town and to the community. Now, Tom talked about how to make Wakefield into a community destination.
Thank you, Nate. So we've talked about Wakefield, the challenges it faces, how we're going to overcome those challenges with goals and design principles we implement. But let's take a step back and talk about why we're doing this, and who we're building this for. It's the people of Wakefield, right? And so who's coming to these destinations? Well, there's 2 primary groups we're kind of looking at. So you have those with the recreational users, those people who come to Wakefield to walk around the lake, they take their dog for a stroll, they walk through the Upper Common parks, they enjoy the natural setting in the north side of our project area. And the other user is also those who come to the Wakefield downtown. They park their car, they go for a nice dinner, they window shop, they run errands at the post office, go to the town hall, and things like that. So how do we discover what they want? Well, there's 3 kind of desires these visitors kind of want. We need to integrate those with our core values to create this revitalized community space. We make sure these answer these visitor desires. So those are accessibility, aesthetic appeal, and assurance of safety. Now, what is that? So some buzzwords, right? But let's go over that. So how we answer accessibility. We provide access to these comments with our Main Street closure. We're providing direct access for plenty of residential users directly onto the park. For bicyclists, we're adding cycling facilities. For vehicles, we're simplifying intersections, especially that one at Main and Crescent. That's a very confusing intersection. We want to simplify that with our road closure. For aesthetic appeal, what are we looking at? Well, we're talking about green space. We added a lot of trees and all that kind of stuff. But it's not just trees. We want to talk about the downtown area, what we're doing there, how we beautify the storefronts. And that's things like street furniture. That's things like green space, and even something like simple, like adding banners at storefronts, awnings, something like that creates a cohesive colonial New England village appearance that we want to bring to Wakefield, and Wakefield wants. So, what are some successful neighbors in the area? We can borrow some ideas from the surrounding neighborhood, right? So in Reading, Mass, just south of Wakefield, there's this intersection looks kind of familiar, right? There's the green space surrounded by 2 roads. And here they, instead of putting through traffic on both sides of that green space, just put it on one side. The left side is instead a parking lot. It's something that no through traffic goes through. And in Lexington, Mass, you can see this successful downtown with adequate pedestrian space, street furniture, green space, something that we want to bring to the town of Wakefield. So this is what we're looking to do for, especially for the downtown area. In essence, we want to create something that is a unique, unified community destination for downtown Wakefield. Thank you for your time. Hand it back for Sarah for questions.
Any questions? Yes.
I'll start. Let's talk only about the section that you all are proposing to close. I didn't hear anything about why that particular section of Main Street. I know you said that there's a park there. We all know the glaring argument about that. People say, oh, if you want to walk, there's a park right there. So it's more difficult to make a case for closing the street in front of the park. What I wanted to hear more was, what other destinations are there? Why this particular block as opposed to something else? Is this where the densest foot traffic is? Is this where all the restaurants are and people want to sit and eat outside? Why that block? Because all the other sections are kind of going to follow that, why did you make your choice? So making a very specific case of why those two block or that L-shaped section that you chose to close. That's one. And the other question you want to answer is, who are you closing this block for? Is this for the people who live 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, or the 20-minute walk? Because that will help with the question, should you even be looking at additional parking? Can you incentivize walking for people who live in the 5-minute radius by not making it difficult for people to park? Can you really do that? Or what cost is it to actually, accommodate all that parking? Are you improving Main Street at the cost of another neighborhood? And that parking is going on a different street and now that's gonna be granted. And then you're gonna get all the pushback from there. So really focusing on why this block and who is this for? Is it catering to the neighborhood or the entire town? Because you'll never ever be able to meet all of those questions at the same time and all of those desires at the same time. So.
Great, awesome, great question. So the big question is why? Yeah. Why this? And when we were going through the design process, we knew that one of our key priorities was additional green space and that we had this disconnected park in the center of Wakefield. So we considered a few different things. We considered closing down Common Street. We considered a small closure closer to Yale, which is this street here, around Yale and Crescent. And we also considered this one shown here. And the reason that we ended up choosing this one is, as James mentioned, Common Street and Main Street currently serve very similar purposes. The volume that drives along Main Street can be handled by Common Street and the intersections there. We definitely had to talk it out regarding which option was our favorite, and the reason that we went with this one is because, as you can see, there's a much denser residential population directly adjacent to that stretch of Main Street, and allowing these people access via walking to the park and to downtown without crossing less streets is really going to help draw more people to the area. Or rather, is going to help encourage those people to walk instead of to drive. And could you reiterate what you asked about parking?
Yeah, so the other question was, who are you closing the street for? And it sounds like you're closing it for the people who live right there, that these people should be able to walk. Because I didn't hear anything about this is where we need extra space. That's not the question. You're closing this because this is convenient as opposed to common, and that can take whatever traffic. So this is, I'm assuming this is for the people who live 5-minute walking. Then why do we need to accommodate all the parking on other places? Are we still, and at what cost? Where is it going? Are you then having to take out more pedestrian space or whatever flex space on other streets? What is the cost of that?
Okay, so the use of this street is, we're going to have a shared use path along the area to make the downtown connected to the lake for bikes and pedestrians, where they don't really have to interact with vehicles. And regarding the parking on Main Street, regarding parking overall, I think Tom can speak to that. Yes?
So parking overall, we're proposing, we still want to serve the downtown area, and we want to remove some of these conflicts as well with the employee and visitor parking that is currently having in downtown. I mean, there's a lot of, you see a lot of people parking there all day and just kind of staying there, and it's 2-hour parking. So we want to remove some of those conflicts, but we still want to serve the local businesses. But in serving parking, we're adding the spaces that we remove along Main Street with our narrowing of the road and stuff like that. We add some small additions where we can serve them along Common Street, where there's like the road closures here, there's parking addition, and we can serve a small lot here and some stuff like that that just maintains the level of parking service that we have while intruding on the green space we're adding the least amount. So we have to balance those two users, and we feel like that how we added small amounts of parking here and the additions of parallel parking we can serve on the road, balances those two views. Does that answer your question?
No, and I'll leave it with this is the last sentence I'm gonna say, promise. If you increase the number of pedestrians, the number of people driving is automatically gonna go down unless you're talking about increasing density in the town. Where is extra people coming from? You can't have a larger pool of one kind of user and not see the other one diminish. And if you see that diminish, you're seeing another improvement in the next 5 years. If you created a good enough environment, people are gonna stop driving. What do you do with those parking spaces now? Are you then making parklets? Whatever. So it's, unless you're adding more people, one of them is gonna go down.
Yes.
We can talk further about parking after.
I was kind of surprised they chose Main Street as these common streets in front of the post office and the library. It kind of seems like it would be a better option, especially since you're only trying to connect the residential areas, so it's just easier crossing to get to the park. So I'm not sure if it has a better benefit to being able to civic uses. The other thing is, you've been out there, I assume, when it was kind of cold and it's been that warm lately. So I grew up in Melrose, and we always drove to Wakefield to go to the pond, walk around the lake and everything. And there's just an insane number of people who walk around the lake using Church and North Ave. There's really no path or anything, so that connection is really important. And then the parking is important here because so many people do drive to Wakefield. The bus runs every 30 minutes, so it's not convenient at all to get there from Melrose and from Avenue. So take a look at that. Definitely the walking and biking. A lot of the biking through here is recreational, not necessarily commuting or getting from place to place.
Yeah, I guess just to summarize what he was saying, I don't know if there was a particular question in there rather than general comments, which are definitely helpful and we want to hear those. But just saying that, as he mentioned, there is like post office and the library and the town hall along the west side of Common Street here. And the reason we chose to keep Common Street open is, imagine if you live, the southern limit of our project is Water Street. So imagine if you live down by Water Street and you drive north to work, you can stop on Common Street, pull over to the post office at the town hall. Those are still just as easily accessible by vehicle. And if you live in a walking distance, they're no less accessible by foot. And you also pointed out that there's a lot of recreational walking and biking around the lake, and that is a big reason that we really want to increase or enhance the connectability and accessibility of pedestrian and bike facilities in the area, because we really want to draw those people to downtown Wakefield. A lot of people just come directly north of the Church Street label. There's a parking lot, it's called Lake Street, so a lot of people just come to Wakefield to park there, walk around the lake, and leave. We really want to encourage people to stay, come downtown, and with the enhanced amenities, we're hoping to encourage that. Yes?
So just one comment and then one question. So the comment being, until the last few slides when you showed other nearby Massachusetts locations to compare what your project goals and what your imagery was for, you have to be sensitive or oversensitive to the dipolar identity crisis that New England towns have, in being they want this quaint downtown, but you said 65% of the people who go there drive. So they have this kind of two identity crises held in one, and that they have to drive there, and then the car has to disappear, and they want to enjoy this quaint little shopfront place, and then they're going to leave that one area and drive back to their suburban isolated home. So kind of going back to the parking considerations and going back to who is this for kind of thing, trying to draw people in their cars to this place that you're designing for non-car use. So just be very oversensitive to the references to Europe and to Manhattan especially, because once they see the Manhattan reference, people who go to New York love New York, but people who do not go to New York hate New York. And they will immediately go, that's not like my town, I don't live there, I don't like that. So they shut off and they kind of revert immediately off. The Reading, the Lexington references was great because it was a nearby place. It was immediately said that that's Massachusetts, that's like me, that NIMBYism, that small kind of town mentality. So just kind of tune into that and be sure. The other thing I was wondering, the question part, is about the Common and Church Street intersection. You're talking extensively about linking downtown to the lake, and one is a commercial center and one is a recreational center, but you didn't speak about how you are connecting the two at that intersection, because you're going to have an increased amount of traffic doing that leg jog, and now you're going to want people to cross from one part of the common park to the lake park. So whether it's an intersection redesign or whether it's a mid-block crossing that's specific, there's going to be a lot of conflicts and solutions that are going to need to be ironed out, but probably at that intersection, Church and Common. So
Yes,
just kind of look
that's-
at that.
That's
I don't know if that's outside in the hall or.
Right, so you can
Okay,
go over
cool.
there and we can discuss that.
Perfect.
afterwards, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, we have come up with proposed intersection redesigns for especially that intersection. We know that's a huge problem, and we know that Common Street can handle the current additional capacity of Main Street, but we know that huge focus is really ensuring that intersection can operate efficiently and that there's no significant increase in delay, if any increase in delay. And yes, we will be over in this corner afterwards, and we have a few mock-ups of intersection designs that we've come up with, so we'd be happy to share those with you. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Where is the commuter rail station?
So the commuter rail station is, sorry.
And I guess have you guys are looking into connecting that on the left?
So this
On North
here
Ave.
is Albion Street. The commuter rail station is directly where North Avenue meets Albion Street, and it is less than a half mile from our project site. So the Wakefield commuter rail station is located on the Haverhill line, very accessible from Boston. So that's even another component of our project, is that we really want to draw people via public transportation too, which is why we want to ensure that the buses continue to operate efficiently, that people, once they arrive by commuter rail, they can be comfortable and feel welcomed in downtown Wakefield. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I may have missed an important part of this, but on the question of the people driving in from 30 minutes away, what would happen if you sacrificed its either end of the closed-off part of Main Street for metered parking? Sort of try to replace some of that last parking for those people, but most of Main Street would still be a big walking path.
Coincidentally, we are actually proposing, I apologize. We are actually proposing a small parking lot here, and Tom, again, can speak more to parking.
Yeah, so we're adding about like 18 or so spaces there, just a small little parking lot, so there's some additional spot we kind of make up for where we lose parking elsewhere in our proposed designs.
And metered, so people would be
We're looking into,
encouraged.
removing some of those conflicts with the visitor parking and employee parking, so that like meters or removing off-site employee parking and stuff like that to kind of make sure that it's appropriate parking where it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Professor Firth. All right, so one thing I wanted to emphasize for all the groups, I could have said it for the previous one, is that especially at a mid project meeting like this, it's important to show alternatives. you know, at the end, you're gonna have designed in detail one alternative. It's important at a time like this to show that there are many alternatives. So you got this triangle, Main Street, Common Street, and Church Street. So just as an example here, one alternative is to close Main Street, one alternative is to close Common Street, one alternative is to close Church Street. So I would think that in a presentation like this, it would be appropriate to quickly go through. We looked at all these three, and we found advantages, disadvantages, and we chose the one we did. Same thing I could have said for the previous group, same thing probably will apply to other groups. It's important to show your clients that you're creative, coming up with all kinds of ideas. You're and you know how to evaluate, and you're zeroing in on the one. Then for evaluation, the key is you have to have a clear objective. And I want to emphasize this is again for you, but for all the groups. Objectives should both lead and conclude your presentation. Here's what we want to accomplish. Here's what we propose to do, and here's why what we propose to do meets our objectives. And you've done some of that, but I want to just strengthen it more. And the last thing I want to say is that you've got a real challenge here, in that the primary objective, pretty clearly, is revitalizing the downtown, and that has to do with a lot more than standard transportation. You got to get outside your comfort zone and think about business. Think about, you know, social behavior and things like that. Like Stephen was saying about all the people that come to walk there. People aren't just coming from Wakefield to Wakefield. Wakefield's drawing people from other places. Parking is really, really important. You want a vital downtown. Vital downtown means lots of people coming. Lots of people coming is going to mean parking. If you want to make the core of the shopping area more beautiful, lots of places to walk, benches, and so on, it means you got to get rid of so much parking there. But if you want this area to succeed, you know, you've heard people ask about parking, and best I can tell, you're probably going to be removing about 100 parking spaces and replacing it with 18. Now, I didn't hear that number, but if you can close Main Street, it really makes you wonder: is the best use of that to put more green space when you got a big hunk of green space, as opposed to some other special use? Could be parking, could be other hardscape kind of use. It seemed just too much of a just immediate reaction. Oh, we want to put green space wherever we can. But your goal isn't, you know, Wakefield isn't suffering from a lack of green space. The main goal is vitalize the neighborhood. And then the last thing on bicycling, that's a goal. You want to increase bicycling. And here I want to challenge you. Think more clearly, put it right up front. What are the destinations where people want to go? And then think about, do they have good routes to get there, and how does your project affect it? So does your project, can it make a contribution to bike routes to commuter rail, bike routes to high school, bike routes, you know, and then how all that fits. That's it.
Sarah, thank you.